Well, Israel says it is seizing territory in Gaza and adding to its security zones. Israel's defense minister says it is part of major expansion of its military operation in the enclave. Tahani Mustafa is a senior Palestine analyst with the International Crisis Group, and she joins me now from Amman. Tahana, welcome to the program. Now, firstly, what can you tell us about what's happening on the ground as far as land sieges in Gaza are concerned?
Well, right now, Israel is significantly shifting geographical realities on the ground in Gaza. We'd already seen Israel, especially from the restart of open warfare, split the strip into two, cutting the south from the north through the Netzarim corridor. And now it is starting to expand into different patches of the territory, especially along the Israel-Egypt border, creating things like buffer zones. And now the intention is to also slice into parts of the territory, which would effectively divide different localities within the south itself, different cities like Rafah and Khan Yunis, for example. And I think it's quite telling also the fact that, this is often a strategy Israel has used in different parts of the occupied territories, in places like the West Bank, where when it wants to cut off Palestinian communities from each other, where it wants to start changing geographical realities on the ground, they always start with things like military zones, buffer zones. The semantics are very, very much similar. And worse yet, these often tend to become very much permanent fixtures, where Israel then tends to effectively use it to prevent permanent Palestinian access from the land itself. The same thing we're starting to see in the context of Gaza. And what's more is the fact that these areas, these routes that they're now renaming, things like Netzarim, Morag, which is a new route that they're now intending to create in order to cut off Khan Yunis from Rafah in the south, these are named after former Israeli settlements.
Yeah, so you're drawing parallels to the West Bank as it stands. Is there a sense from you that once Israel takes control of the areas it wants in Gaza, that it'll be next to impossible for Palestinians to regain control back?
Absolutely. This is often the kind of semantics and pretext Israel uses when it wants to permanently prevent Palestinian access on the land. And that's exactly what we're now seeing in the context of Gaza. And this is exactly what many had been warning about since the outset when we were, battling with the idea of a potential ground invasion, where Israeli politicians were threatening of retaking, resettling Gaza. And it's precisely these sorts of military tactics that we're now starting to see on the ground, where Palestinians are being pushed into smaller and smaller patches of territory, and given now the sort of plans of actually operationalizing those land expansions and reoccupation and physical reoccupation, there is very much the potential that there isn't going to be any land left for those that do remain in Gaza, and where we could actually end up seeing, quote unquote, what the Israelis are calling voluntary immigration. But let's be real, what we're seeing in the West Bank is what we're going to be seeing in Gaza, which is effectively indirect displacement.
And Israel, not surprisingly, is talking about and advocating voluntary departures of Palestinians from Gaza. Could things go beyond voluntary to forced, with Israel's defense minister wanting to establish a special department to oversee this?
Well, precisely, where they haven't been able to forcibly push Gazans out of the territory because there's quite literally nowhere for them to go, where Israel has managed to effectively close off the borders, preventing people, even those that do have the capacity to leave, to effectively leave, and where regional states are reluctant to take them in. We definitely are seeing things like forced displacement, where Israel has destroyed localities, where they have expanded their areas of operation, aerial and ground. So absolutely, it's either going to be forced or indirect.
And does a move like this contravene international law? And even if it does, is there any jurisdiction that can even prevent it?
By all accounts, this is against international law. I mean, that's not really an issue here. By all definitions, what Israel is doing is against international law. The problem here is that we have no states, no effective mechanisms that can actually enforce the law. International law is only as powerful as the powerful allow it to be. And we have seen over the last 18 months that international organizations like the ICC, the ICJ, the UN have effectively failed at providing any kind of deterrence against Israel when there are no actual enforceable mechanisms to rein Israel in. And right now, worse yet, you have the most powerful state in the world that is effectively backing Israel's ambitions here. The contours of Trump's own plans for the future of Gaza doesn't really translate into anything more than a huge real estate plan. So really what this has done is give Israel a complete green light to effectively continue with its expansionist policies in the context of Gaza.
Yes, and Tahani, the ceasefire has effectively been shattered by these latest offensives inside Gaza. How do you see these battles playing out between the IDF and Hamas soldiers, and what might be the continued impacts of that?
Well, I mean, Hamas's military capabilities are slowly deteriorating. Hamas itself is trying to maintain a long-term insurgency where it can, but you're starting to see that wane in many places in the north now. There really isn't much pushback from Hamas militants. We're not seeing that many clashes as we did at the outstart in the last 18 months. So it's very clear that Hamas is itself being deterred away now from armed resistance, given the huge humanitarian toll this has taken on Gazans and the cost of life. And so what you're really now seeing at this point is Israel literally conducting quite literally an onslaught, both aerial and ground. And what this means for the ceasefire itself, Hamas have already expressed their willingness. Regional states are already trying to push Hamas to accept as flexible terms as possible. The problem here is that Netanyahu, along with Trump, have made it very clear that they have no interest in ending this war. Absolutely none. If anything, they have made it very clear that they intend to continue with their maximalist objectives of destroying Hamas in every capacity and retaking Gaza.
Okay, Tahani Mustafa, really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.